let's talk a little bit more about the treatment. I know you had the radiation to decrease the lesions and also the plasmacytoma on your spine. And then you had the chemo, the VAD you were talking about. That did not decrease or reduce the lesions. So the
Right.
following year, you did go through an autologous stem cell transplant
Hmm.
and responded well. So um, really briefly, I mean, or however long you want to describe it, how was the stem cell transplant and what would you like to tell other people? I know, it happened some time ago, but what would you like to share with people that you think might help them?
Yeah, we because we lived in such a small town in Wyoming, and really in Wyoming they don't do cell transplants anywhere. So we had to go to Denver, which is where my parents lived, which worked out really well. They wanted us to go to Salt Lake because that's where my original oncologist was, but it worked out better in Denver because my parents were there. They could watch the kids. We knew it was going to be most of the summer of 1998. My husband had just gotten a job. We had just moved um, recently from Rock Spring or from Evanston to Rock Springs. And so he was new to his position. And so, but they made it so nice for him. They donated sick leave so that he was able to, all over the state, they donated sick leave so that he was able to come and be with me during the entire transplant, which was 30 days in hospital. And so we went to the University of Colorado, and that's where I had my stem cell transplant. Um, I had no problem getting enough cells for that. Uh, it was a really, really hard time. I mean, basically they kill your bone marrow until it's basically nothing so that they can restart it. And I was very, very sick. Thank goodness they give you medications so that the patient doesn't remember a lot of the things. My husband had to watch the whole thing and he remembers all of it, but I don't remember a lot of it. It was really cool. I was in a study, and there was 3 things that you could randomly be picked for, and one was a pleasant or a friendly visitor, music therapy, or a massage, and I got massage. And so that was really cool that I got to do that. But I remember I had to journal in this book for that massage study, and the first few days were really coherent, and I could read my writing, and I was saying things that were happening. And then as it went through, it just became just this scribbling, and you could not read a word of it. And I had the ladies like, well, that's pretty typical because you're just so sick, and you're just barely hanging on in some ways. But yeah, it was a difficult time. It was all in hospital, where anybody came to visit, you had to gown up and be germ free as much as possible. We had a lot of visitors. We had different people coming in to show their support, which was really great. But it was a difficult time, and I had to be there a month before the transplant to get the cells, and then a month after for just making sure I'm okay to go home. But so we spent the whole summer of 98 in Denver in my mom's house or at the hospital.
Yeah.
So it was a big deal, but boy, I came out of it great.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so after about a year, it took about a year to where I wasn't feeling sick all the time, and um and building my strength back.
Right, of course, because you went through
So
such an involved process, if you will, and that makes perfect sense. It's going to take so much time for your body to recover from that. So, Beth, you just shared with us in the previous, segment about how you got diagnosed, those first symptoms, making treatment decisions, traveling from everywhere to everywhere else just to get treatment because you were in a small town, a couple different towns.
mhm.
And then you just described going through the stem cell transplant and how long it took for your body to recover, about a year. But the good news out of that was you were about 12 years, what you called normal life living, right? Just could kind of resume the activities. First, what were the follow ups like? I know you said your medical team said no maintenance therapy necessary. So, yeah, what was your life like during those 12 years?
When we lived in Rock Springs, I was going back every 3 months, and it was difficult because the way that they were doing just extensive testing every time. And so I would have to take the kids out of school. Well, my daughter was in school. We homeschooled her for kindergarten, and then we put her in school for first grade. And so during first grade, no, second, she must have been in second grade. Anyways, we took her out of school for 2 weeks each time. So every 3 months we'd go to Denver for 2 weeks. They do a bunch of testing, days worth. Then we'd stay there, and then we'd have to go back for the results and different things like that. So that was a hard time, just getting through that and going every 3 months. And then once they realized, that I was doing great and that the stem cell transplant seemed to have worked, that I went to every 6 months. And then we moved to Cheyenne, Wyoming, which was a lot closer to Denver, which was nice. So I was going about every 6 months. And then they released me to just a local oncologist in Cheyenne, which they had oncologists in Cheyenne, which was nice. And so, so then we just, I did a 6-month checkup then with that oncologist there in Cheyenne for many years. And I worked, I lived, like I said, kind of a normal life. I felt great. I was exercising. I was, doing everything that a mom does for her kids, growing up, and they were getting older and in junior high and high school by then. And it was, just like, hey, maybe I'm in remission forever. They had told me, give us 10 years and we'll maybe have a cure by then. And that didn't really happen. But boy, I had a long time where I could just live my life. So it was nice.
Yes, I mean, and no cure yet, but lots of new treatments being studied, and we're definitely going to get into that in the next segment. But it's great that you're able to have about 10, 12 years, again, living as normal of a life as you could be, mentally. So I know physically, you said you're doing well and you're doing all these things. Mentally, how was it for you? Because, when we watch the movies or read a book and there's cancer, it's very acute. It's like you were diagnosed and then you go through this treatment and then there's your outcome. But for you, it was, for myeloma, people diagnosed with myeloma, it's this chronic disease type experience. So mentally, um, how did you push forward? Did you get anxiety? Did it get better? What helped you?
Yeah, it was difficult because every time we go to the doctor, it was like, okay, is it back? Because even though they said give us 10 years, they also said it'll 99% it will come back. And so so each time we'd go, we'd have this, dark cloud over our heads thinking, is this the time when it's going to come back? And so it was hard because I was always feeling pains, what is this pain? What is this pain? And so it was just always a mind thing, where I was just, dealing with that all the time. And I guess for us, we just have a tremendous faith in God. And that's the biggest thing that helped us, was just to have trust in him and know that he has the best plan for me. And so we just went that way along the whole journey. And I'm just so thankful for that, because I don't know how I would have done it without that in my life. So